Clint,
Colette.
how are you doing? How is it going? Sorry.
I think that was nice. I didn't want to interrupt you. Carry on. I don't think I've heard your singing voice in a few years.
Oh, that wasn't my real singing voice, but no, I just came from my daughter's. They have like a teddy bear picnic at her elementary school where the young fives and the kindergartners all like meet by class, and they like are in a little ring, and you sit behind them in the ring, and then they do songs and stuff. So it's just
Little
was
children.
They make you sing rounds of Frere Jacques with your children. It's great.
Frere Jacques,
Yeah.
Dormez-vous, right?
Mm-hmm. So I was
Damn it.
just the singing was in the back of my
Yeah.
head.
No, I don't have any little children anymore. My youngest is now 10, and
I'm so jealous.
It's magical times. Oh, I mean, yes and no, right? Like
It's new problems, right?
Yes, I was gonna say, like anything in our lives, it evolves and changes with context, whether we want it to or not. So there are good new things, and there are bad new things.
Yeah, 100%.
And then there are just things that are different. But I feel like I'm almost recovered from the previous couple of weeks of insanity.
Yes.
Like once again, we're recording an intro after our episode because
but not so far after. But yes, we had to do it.
Yeah,
after
we're getting closer to how we want to do it, but still, I still was like time constrained yesterday, and I think you were too. And it feels like it's a good reminder that like just like our children evolve, like the moment we're in can evolve. And I remember, and I know I summoned the chaos gods, like, I don't mind incidents. I'm really cool as a cat,
Yeah,
and I
that
kind
was
of get
you
nervous
last
when
time.
things are quiet, and I'm like, thank you for the quiet universe. Please continue.
Are you on call right now, or did you hand off?
I am on call, but entirely by accident.
Oh,
Like we're migrating paging systems, and something happened, and all the schedules got rebooted. And because I was so overstretched and taking time off early in the week, I didn't know that a whoopsie had been made, and I was on call, and I was like, it's just 2 more days. Like, luckily it's been a quiet one, but yeah, normally we don't. Like I have 2 rotations because I'm mock and my team, and normally I wouldn't let those bookend, but because of the reboot, I didn't notice until was already in it. Adaptations continue unabated. Mm-hmm. What's been going on with you? Nice. You were walking Jack, I think you said.
I was walking Jack. My daughter is at a friend's house playing, so we have some time. And our house continues to be a nightmare, and I'm never going to redo a house again. Or it's like I'm of 2 minds. I was just thinking as I was walking Jack, it can either be that you're never going to do it again, or you could be like, I know so much now about what can go wrong that I should just do this for a living. So there's like also that thought in the back of my head. I know.
Gross. I know this feeling.
And I'm starting a new job in a couple weeks, which is exciting. So it's all the new things are happening, and the foundation's doing good. We just had a board meeting, and we're talking about doing a membership drive. So maybe we should do a special This Is Fine live episode or something for that. That would be cool.
Totally.
All good things, but also I'm tired. So, as I think most people who are parents of a 3 and a 5-year-old and are doing other things are as well. You can hear Jack walking behind me.
I do say this to myself a lot. It is a privilege to be tired from doing the things you chose to do.
This is all my fault. All of it.
Yes.
So, No one to
wanted
blame
this.
but me. We got a question. I think we got this question like a while ago, and we get such long lags between when people write questions in now that like I sort of don't notice it sometimes, which means you should write in questions, and then I will have an excuse to check our question bank. You can go to thisisfinepod.com. We just did a website rebrand.
Yeah, it looks
We
beautiful.
had a real designer work on our website instead of me just pulling memes
should we
from
thank them?
Yes. Elizabeth Karras Allspaw is still working on it a little bit, but it's mostly there and done and super awesome, I think. So thank you to her.
My favorite part is that you can actually read all the text on the website.
Yes. Whereas before I had just socked in a
It was a perfect like microcosm.
It was like, this will do for now.
Early system. Yeah. It works. It gets people to the forum.
Yeah.
Maybe people will get more questions. I've been thinking about getting more questions. Should we send people a T-shirt or something when they ask us a question?
If we do their question, well, so we have the form is technically anonymous. Yeah.
True.
We also I have a ghost Patreon that I set up for us just in case we wanted to do a Patreon. If you think that we should do a Patreon, will you tell us, people out there? I don't know. But if we did a Patreon, we could totally do swag for people who join the Patreon. I think that'd be cool.
Let us know if you would join our Patreon. We're on Blue Sky and LinkedIn. Talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Or find us on Slack if you're in RSF and tell us. Yeah. So we got a question. I think it's a good question. And we called in our ringer, Mr. John Allspaw.
Professor Allspaw.
Yeah. And I think it was there were a couple questions that came in. I think this was by far the far and away the one that we both raised our eyebrows at. So yeah. So John Allspaw needs no introduction to those of you who've listened to any of these episodes, but in case you're new, around these parts, John Allspaw has worked in software systems engineering and operations for over 20 years in many different environments. He's also the reason that we're doing this stuff, right?
Pretty much.
He was the first person in resilience engineering. Yeah. That in the software world, basically. John's publications include the books The Art of Capacity Planning and Web Operations, as well as the forward to the DevOps Handbook. His 2009 Velocity Talk with Paul Hammond, 10 plus deploys per day, Dev and Ops cooperation, helped start the DevOps movement. John served as CTO at Etsy and holds a master's in science in human factors and system safety from Lund University. Welcome, John. Hello. Hi, John.
Hi.
Welcome back.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us in a Grateful Dead t-shirt, no less. That is a Grateful Dead t-shirt, right?
It's actually, it's not. It's a Powell and Peralta skateboarder. It's the logo of Mike McGill. And he's the skater who invented the McTwist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah. Fun fact.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
How you been, John? How are things? What's new?
Things are fine. Things are fine. It's warmer here in Brooklyn, and my daughter's come home from university before she goes to summer
internship. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's going okay. Work seems to be weird. Every day is a different story, or there's surprises all the time.
Every day is a new adventure.
So work is work.
Mm-hmm.
Work is work. Work has been, work has continued to be the same as it has ever been. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Clint, we got a question, and I read it to you, or no, I slacked it to you. I think this is how this happened.
Yeah.
I slacked it to you and I said, this is a John episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what I said.
I think I gave you the plus 10,000 emoji on that one.
Yeah. So John, we got a question, and we haven't been getting many questions in. For folks who are listeners, you can go to thisisfinepod.com. We just got a refresh of the website, actually, if you want to see how cool it looks. And you can ask us a question. Just click on the ask a question button. If you fill out a Google form, then we will maybe answer your question on the podcast. But anyways, we got this question in, John, and we thought of you. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Hi, this is Fine Team. TLDR, hindsight bias, poker, and debrief interviews. I'm currently revisiting Annie Duke's book, Thinking in Bets, which is about decision making and its connection to poker. One great point that resonates with me is that the world is not like chess. You don't have all the information or the full picture when you make decisions. The book argues that we should separate our decision making process from the outcome. You can make a good decision with the information you had and still have a bad outcome, or vice versa, getting lucky despite a bad decision. This made me think about incident response. During an outage, we are constantly making decisions with incomplete information and uncertain outcomes. My questions for you are, in a post-incident debrief, how do we effectively uncover and understand the actual decision-making process of the people involved, rather than just judging the outcome through hindsight? Could you perform a pseudo-interview or role play on the podcast? I'd love to hear how you would practically question a responder to uncover their in-the-moment thinking.
Right.
I believe John Allspaw is the person who sends me the most natural decision-making email updates and conference invitations of anybody I know. And therefore, I think he is appropriately suited to answer this question.
Yeah.
Is that a technical term? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. So
natural
I was going to say,
I'm not familiar.
John, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
My unlearned self asks the question again.
This is it's relevant to the question. So the short of it is that naturalistic, a word that describes the world as it is naturally, as it comes, all of the messiness that it has. Naturalistic decision making is a field. You could argue that I think Gary Klein would argue that there was many other people, but let's face it, it was Gary Klein.
It was Gary Klein, yeah.
Back in the 1900s, I can say that because I'm old, but naturalistic decision making was one way to look at it is somewhat of a reaction, not really a reaction, but certainly a contrast to how decision making was understood, certainly studied and researched. Prior to that, it took place in more of like a traditional psychology experiment environment. So, for example,
like thinking fast and slow, like Kahneman and Tversky, right? Yeah,
Kahneman, Tversky, absolutely representative of that. So, what you do is you want to isolate the mechanism, the phenomena that you want to study. So, therefore, and you'll put together some some exercise or some sort of task, and what you want to do is get rid of you want to control for other variables. And so you'll, what they call it, like a Spartan laboratory, right? As if it was a clean room, and you got your grad student, your undergrad that you're going to give a couple like a $20 bill to, and answer some questions like, a bat and a ball cost $1.10. How much more does the bat cost than the ball? And that sort of thing. That's certainly an approach. What Klein and others were like, I don't think that's a decision I've ever made. And I think that there maybe I don't think that's actually a good way to understand how decision-making works, because decision-making in the real world, more often than not, has a lot more uncertainty than the answer to that question. And there's a lot of things going on for people while they are, it's loud. And so when these are consequential decisions, like the decisions you're making, it's not just that it's under uncertainty or you're trying, or things are ambiguous or you're in a dilemma, or that sort of thing, but they're important because things can go horribly wrong, and things can go really, really poorly if one route goes rather than other routes. And so, yeah, you need, like in a fire, a burning building is really loud. In a hospital, in an emergency room, for people who watch The Pit, right? That's not exactly a serene environment. And so naturalistic decision making is just that. Understanding how people understand their world, make decisions under uncertainty, stress, ambiguity, all of those certain things, rather than let's put you in the clean room and shh, quiet now.
Right. Take all that away and then see how you decide.
Exactly.
Unnatural decision making.
So how do they do that? How do they propose
How do they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let me answer. Let me set something up, and then we'll get to that, or it might become clear as I'm describing this. One of the things that we know about understanding how people not just make decisions, because it's a good shorthand, but there are a lot of things that we do that we wouldn't necessarily describe colloquially as a decision. So, for example, are you two deciding how to sit right now and hold your body in the chair? No, right? And Clint, have you used an editor today?
A few times,
right? And so you just, if you're a Vim user like me, I don't remember. There's no way I could tell you what I typed today. It's just a muscle memory thing and habituation. I can't ask you. I mean, I can ask you about something that has happened in the past, but you're not. If I ask you what you were thinking, you're going to have an answer, but that answer isn't what you were thinking. Mm-hmm. That answer is going to be a rationalization. We're not interrogating your memory when we ask you a question. We're asking a completely different part of your mind about what it thinks is the most reasonable answer to that question, because it can't get in there. Right. We like to think about it as like, videotape or audio tape. Like but you can't rewind and then play it. So to say, why did you do that? Or tell me what's happening there. There's a bit of you can't just do that. Now, so
you have to reconstruct your thinking about it in that moment from
it's not even a
rationalization.
It's an imagination
of what you were thinking. Yeah.
And you will say what's plausible. And in fact, in it's more about the interview. It's more about the question and that environment than it is about the situation you are in.
What actually happened. Yeah.
Right. And so very rarely would people say, I was confused or I don't know. They usually say something. As an aside, this is what makes why a really terrible question, because how questions and what questions and tell me about, those sorts of open-ended like prompts get people to describe something to you. But why, they have to give you their rationale, which again, as we've already established, they can't give you, but they will give you something that seems plausible, as if they were a completely different person.
What they think is the reason they did it.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
moment, given all the things that have transpired since then.
Or what they think you want to hear about what the
Yeah.
reason was. And I think that's the other thing, right? Is there's two people in
Yes.
that engagement,
The question
and they
asker
might try,
matters.
right?
That's known as reflexivity, right? So if you ask a question and big boss says, "Did you do this? Why did you do this?" And you're gonna answer,
No.
"I don't know."
That was
maybe
that
not.
guy.
Yeah. No.
As my
Well-
youngest said the other day, that was Gwen. Before we could even say what it was. It wasn't me, it was her.
He's got the peanut butter on his hand, right? Who ate all the peanut butter?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So,
it makes sense. Your boss asks you, why did you delete the database? Versus a colleague who's at the same level. You will give slightly, if not vastly different answers because of the ramifications of your answer. And so that is included in it. This makes sense to me.
yeah, and it doesn't even have to be about the interviewer. It might be, again. So let's say you've described you've given a story. This is what was going on in this incident, and at that point we were thinking, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So you've built up a narrative that has literally been built up in this exchange you're having, not as let's go to tape and see what happened. And so whether or not you can kind of find yourself in not a sticky place, but it's influencing the narrative that you've laid out will influence what you answer later on, because it needs to be, it can't be, completely convergent. It can't be, out of nowhere. It needs to kind of fit story-wise. It's a story that's not accurate, but it's a story. And then the difficulty is that it can be accurate, but it's not because you went to some single source of truth, because you don't have access. That's the explaining and describing is a different part of your cognitive processes than the doing,
the decision making.
The decision making. And it just occurred, I did want to mention this for people who are really, really into this sort of thing. We're used to these days hearing about a paper by a woman named Lisa Bainbridge, and that is the ironies of automation. That's not my favorite Bainbridge paper. My favorite paper is Verbal Reports as Data, I believe, is what it's called. And she walks through this. There's kind of like a wall between the doing of cognitive work and the describing later. So back to Colette, your question, which is, how do you do that? How do you understand what's going on? Well, what you can do typically is, there are two things. Number one, how you ask the question and what you ask about matters. You cannot overstate that. In the Etsy debriefing facilitation guide, we included what our professor Sidney Dekker included in his Field Guide to Understanding Human Error, which is a little bit of a short, a really kind of like a cheat sheet, really. It doesn't really do it justice, of what's known as a critical decision method. And so when you don't ask people about the decision, about a decision, you ask them about what they were doing, what they were working on, what was going on for them, and so prompts would be like, let's say that you're describing, there was this issue. In the case of an incident, it's great. You got a pretty good handle on where their attention is. It's the incident, right? And so, and as they're describing, you want to get a description, and then you're asking questions about what they're giving you. But in a lot of cases, especially in software, we have data about what they did. Slack transcript is about what that is what they did. And by did mean that is what they wrote in channel. To the extent that you might even have logs of a command they ran or a button or a process they did. So the way that you would get a much better, rather than just saying, tell me, and then you get, the rationalization, is you can ask about, I noticed in this channel that right here you say, Steve, this doesn't make any sense. What's that? Tell me about that. What is that? And then you can get them to describe things. So if you present them with something that they did, you end up with a triangulation. You can have what they did at the time. That includes what they said at the time, what they wrote at the time, what they communicated about at the time. And then you've got later questions, descriptions, explanations about what they can tell you now afterwards about what they did or what was going on for them. And so think of it as a little bit of a triangulation. This sounds, as I'm describing it, like, oh my God, that's a lot, but it's not. It's just a skill. And so that the two things are how you ask the question. Critical decision method questions are, and you should put those in the show notes because you can't really describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, we can link to that Etsy facilitation guide if it has a set there.
Yeah. It does. And then the other is presenting them. It's called cued recall about what they did. Right. And so you have it's basically a behavioral data and verbal data. And that's how you can get at a bit better about what was going on for them. But you notice I keep saying what's going on for them. I'm not saying get in their head and, be able to get to the, it's like you're not getting to /proc, right? You're not getting to, the kernel. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Am I making any sense?
So, yeah, I mean, but then there's all these people who they have the flight simulator cockpit studies, right? How does that translate into this world? Is that do
in what way?
Well, I'm thinking about selfishly, the there is no there of situational awareness, but is there how would the naturalistic decision-making camp think about pseudo mocked up sort of play environments or staged worlds or something like that, right? Where it's not the thing, but it's kind of the thing, or how do they view that? Is it really there's no, you can't study anybody unless they're actually in the environment, or is it no, there's gradations there or something?
So no to the last question. Not really gradations. I mean, yes, but not in the way you think. Bear with me. And also know that it is, I can't remember, you're in a play or a fake thing, right? Simulation of some sort. A staged world scenario that you mentioned is different than, say, just a plain old simulation. What makes a staged world different? Let me back up here. So we mentioned there's the Spartan laboratory variables, controlled conditions, right over here, and then there's naturalistic over here, right? And my colleague found himself, and his colleagues found themselves in a situation where they didn't want to do this, and they couldn't do this. And they couldn't do this because you can't really study how operators at a nuclear power plant handle situations with a real situation, because you don't really want to be near the
I mean, you
plant.
could, but that would be a bad situation
expensive.
for you as
I
a
think that's
researcher.
expensive.
Yeah.
That's called crime, and it's a different.
Yeah.
That's a different story, different podcast even. And so, you can't talk about it. This is like one step beyond. Prod is never like staging, It's like even beyond that. So they split the difference in a way that is important in a staged world. This is the origin of a staged world. The staged world is to design scenarios, not kind of, but also not at all like psychology experiments. But it's not at all like that. So you're designing it. It's contrived. It's constructed in a very deliberate way. But it's influenced by two things that matter. Number one, data about the size and sort of the shape of difficulties from real events that have taken place in the past or elsewhere, and you are making effort to include these particular types of complicating factors that match that. So you end up with what's known as cognitive fidelity. And my friends at Uptime Labs do this very well. If it doesn't matter so think about like a flight simulator. When you're in a flight simulator, setting aside that they are stunning and amazing and so, absolutely realistic, but in a realistic way, it can't, if the flying in a simulator did not feel to a pilot like they were flying, but it was absolutely in 4 dimensions perfect, then it doesn't matter. As my colleague Beth says, like you can see the mic boom in the shot, right? And you're like, so it's fake. Mm-hmm. In the case of a staged world, you're deliberately constructing this thing so that the participants who are going through the scenario, taking part of this, encounter the exact same types. So, for example, red herring, right? That's a data overload. Mm-hmm. There are about 39 of them. I looked at all of them. It's related to work, but there's a chapter in a book from 2018 called Facets of Complexity, and it is, I think, to date, the most comprehensive description of complicating factors, and they sort of cluster around sense making and detecting and executing and a bunch of sort of higher order groupings, but they're very specific, and if you were to look at them, you would absolutely recognize every one of these. In fact, there's an SRE or anybody who's responded to an incident, you would say, I think I'm gonna try to put together a poster because there's a lot, but as long as the work to make the cognitive fidelity real, it is real. It is real. So the decisions you're making are absolutely real. And I don't know, you tell me, Clint, you've done a drill like that. Did it feel real?
In ways, like there was still
you knew that it was all right.
Like I knew I was in the simulator, right? So I knew the crash wouldn't kill me.
I knew, of course,
right? Like that's that. But you sort of set that on a shelf and do your best not to look at it, and then it does otherwise. Like I'm going through the same things I imagine I will do in the same situation, so that I can think this through a little slower. without the threat of financial ruin or whatever safety boundary we don't want to cross in reality. So yeah, it starts to feel real in ways, but not in all the ways.
Of course. And the people at Westinghouse, where Dave Woods and Emily Roth pioneered a lot of what we're talking about, those participants also knew that they were going to go home that day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. That's sort of what makes it. That's sort of what makes those. As long as it's real, like you are solving a dilemma. You're facing a dilemma where there are no right answers. You're going to have to make a sacrifice decision. You're going to have to give up something in order, maybe something, of value, in order to have a gain of something else. But they all have downsides, right? That's what a dilemma, those are all kinds of different shapes and sizes of a dilemma.
My favorite version of this is a little bit off from what you're saying, but it comes to my mind whenever we think about tabletops. I think about Jurassic Park, and I think about the girl sitting at the computer going, "This is Unix. I know this.
I know
all
this.
the ridiculousness that comes from that." Like every person who knows Unix knows how ridiculous that moment in the movie is. But as I've talked through this with you and some other folks in the field, this has come into my mind. So she had practiced in a similar environment and had some things in her brain that others didn't, that made her make decisions that were maybe more useful in that moment. And I've tried to explain that to people in that way. She still had dinosaurs trying to eat her.
That's true.
There was an incident going on,
yeah.
But she had practiced Unix. And so that became useful and an input into that decision. So on the other side of this coin, you're bringing with you what you've experienced before. And when I interview people after an incident, I want to learn a little bit about that too. Had you, what surprised you about this is kind of meant to evoke some of this. I've done something like this before, but this was different.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's this famous, it's a famous quote. Jamie Zawinski said, some people, when confronted with a problem, think to themselves, I know, I'll use regular expressions. Now they have two problems. So, and the girl in Jurassic Park, she had, as you point out, she had a lot going on, right? Some of those things going on were velociraptors, right? Now, and she's so excited because here's this thing that's familiar. Now she feels like she can handle these problems because she doesn't have to learn Unix, right? And so it's a boon, really, to what she's doing. I wouldn't know if I would say her decisions, because there's actions, there's understanding, but she was in a better spot to do what she, to adapt and handle things.
So our listener asked us if we could do a mock incident interview.
You mean an interview? Yeah.
Yeah. John, do you think you can interview Clint?
I absolutely can interview Clint.
Clint, are you willing to be interviewed?
I've been interviewed before. I'll do it again.
All right. So the way at the Naturalistic Decision Making Conference, it's coming up in June, they often have a workshop where this exercise, and we do this with our clients as well because it's just too good, for knowledge elicitation. And so it starts with an event, some sort of an event. It doesn't have to be computer related, but if it is computer related, that works too. Do you have one in mind?
I have several from recent weeks, which I would be happy to share with you in an ambiguous way.
Okay. Well, I would probably first ask, What happened?
Great question.
Yeah.
My experience. So I had been on a different incident as incident commander, responder, and curious party looking through the windows for 3 weeks prior to this incident. So this was a Wednesday. No, sorry, this was Thursday. And over the prior 3 weeks, there had been an intermittent issue that had called all of our attention over those weeks. And I was wrapping that up. I was the incident commander of record at the time. 5 people wore that hat during that incident. And I was pretty exhausted, but I was also happy because we had just gotten it to the point. I was like, cool, see you all. And then my phone beeps. And we need an incident commander in a different incident. So immediately jump into this incident. And there were 25 people on this call. Many of whom did not work for my company. They were customers. And none of them looked happy. And I had about 30 seconds before I joined to read the summary in the page that I was sent that said, customer down, need incident commander. So I had no context. And what I learned in that moment, their customer rep explained to me something terrible had happened, and their entire operation was blocked by something that we had done, and they were about to miss a deployment window. And then their engineering leader explained to me, you have 2 hours before we miss this, and there's huge consequences. We need this solved. So yeah, pretty stressful moment after already being pretty at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
But that's how it started. And I went immediately into intense time-constrained incident commander mode at that moment.
So you mentioned there was 25 people on the call. Is that abnormal? Like what is
abnormal.
How many people? Oh yeah.
That is highly abnormal. Normally we would have, so I would be playing the engineering response role. So we sort of have like a customer support mechanism and then an engineering support mechanism. We escalate to engineering from support and we keep that wall up. We don't join the customer's calls unless it's too inefficient to communicate through past messages. So immediately when I see this, I have seen it maybe once or twice in 2 years at this organization. I know that this is going to be important and intense, and somebody's slacking me. This is the customer's on the call. This person works for the customer. I'm getting that all at once, but I immediately know, just go into professional. We're talking to customers here. We have to be measured in what we say. So, I'd say this is the 3rd time in 2 years that I'd seen that level of engagement, where you have just customers and VPs and support engineers and regular engineers. The Katamari ball had picked up quite a few.
Yeah. So that you had 2 hours for this window on the customers. Is that right? The customer's window was.
Yeah.
And then you had read some sort of summary before you learned that there was this 2 hour window. It sounds like,
but 8 words maybe.
Oh, okay.
Customer is blocked because of X.
Were there other people helping you?
So I asked to give me a description of what's blocking. What are you trying to do? Another said, so I just need to understand, in plain words and as quickly as possible, explain what is it that you need to do with the system, and what is breaking, and can I get any direct logs, evidence, anything in front of us so that I can make sense of this. And their support engineers gave that to me, and they sort of nodded along, yes, that's the problem. And so it's my job as the incident commander to find people who can fix it. I'm not going to fix it. So I immediately say, okay, I'm going to page 2 people from different teams who are kind of on either side of this. I'll be back in a minute. I dropped from the call so I could focus on paging people and tracking them down and pinging Slack and getting ETAs. So that was
how did you know?
Step I did.
How did you know who to call?
There is this amazing document that we fastidiously maintain at all times, which is areas of ownership. So we say, if it's this, page that team. If it's this, page that team. If you don't know, page that team. That's my team.
Okay.
And so I had to make sense of what they were telling me was broken and sort of, and I did check in actually with another engineering manager who happened to be on the call from one of those teams. I said, this is not you, right? Like, no, we tried. Like, it wouldn't be us. So, there was some ambiguity. Like, I was making a best guess in the moment. Like, it's team A and team B, and I'll page both of their on-call people with a high priority, please get back to me as soon as possible, join this Slack channel, and talk to me as soon as you get this.
Gotcha. Wow. So you did go look at the document? You had to go look at
I went and just sort of searched through it. Now I'm also pulling from my own sort of global understanding of the system, and that's an advantage I have in this. Another incident commander from another part of the company may not have had as much local knowledge. So I definitely feel like we got lucky in that you had me there. This is what I do. I read this document all the time as part of my normal work.
Okay.
And so I'm sort of familiar with, I think it's team A, team B. I just want to talk to them and ask them about it, but I have no time to talk to them. So page them, get them to join, and away we go.
And were they able to, I don't know if they joined or not, but were they able to?
This was like just after business hours for both of them. So they were sort of readily accessible, and both of them acknowledged the pages really quick and got back to me on Slack really quick and said, I'll be at my keyboard in about 5 minutes. So while they did that, I joined the call again and I said, hey, I have 2 people. Here are their names. They're going to be working on this issue. They're going to join this call in a few minutes after I talk to them. If you have anything else you want to provide to them, gather that. I'm going to go coordinate them. And then I dropped back off the call and went into a separate call that I created just with those 2 people and explained to them what I understood the problem to be. But I also said, and we're going to join the call, and I want you to ask them any questions because I'm not going to be solving it. You are. And we don't have any time. And I explained to them, we have to really solve this in about 30 minutes because by the time you're on the call and we're getting there, we've already eaten an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. I've never actually had an incident quite that constrained, by the way. I've had like the disk is going to fill up in 5 hours if we don't do something, but this was pretty narrow.
Well, I could keep going. I figured I'd leave it for time. Thanks a lot. That was great. Yeah.
It's fun to share.
Colette. Yeah. Do you think that was helpful, Colette, for the person asking the question?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when you taught me this, John. And so I think like one of the things that was surprising to some people was how little you talk in the interview as the interviewer, right? And how, like, I just remember, like, one of the golden rules is, like, never interrupt somebody. Like, never interrupt them.
And that's
because they're
really
going to get, yes. It is especially hard, I think, if you're an engineer who's interviewing another engineer and that engineer says something that you know is wrong or not true, or even as an investigator, you may have talked to somebody else who disagrees with something that this but you just have to keep going, keep straight face, like let them talk, don't interrupt, don't correct, don't say anything about that, just keep going. And it's such a powerful thing to let people talk.
Yeah, and I think if you remember, one of the there are a number of different challenges, but for software engineers in general, specifically software engineers, like I haven't seen it with surgeons or pilots, some pilots, but as engineers, it's in our nature, like it's our ethos, our soul. We want to be helpful, and to sit idly by while somebody describes this belief about technology that we know to be factually incorrect, absolutely, to not, because we think we're helping them, you know. And so that's really, but of course we're not there. Like we're there to get there. We're there for them. It's not the other way around. They are the teacher. And what we're interested in isn't what is factually correct. We're interested in what they understand as being correct and important and relevant to whatever we're talking to them about. And that's it. And they could say this, that the sky is purple and the grass is always red. And you're going to say, great. Now you've got two things to ask about because you want to know how they came to understand that grass is red. So, but yeah, you'll notice also that there's only once when I asked Clint, and it was barely a multi-part question, but I kind of made a statement a little bit. That's a lot. There's a bunch of tricks but if you can play back a little bit for what they told you as a jumping off point for another question.
The next piece. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people will think you go into an interview with a list of questions. You can absolutely have an idea of a notion, like here are some things I'm hoping to understand, but it needs to feel like a conversation. You will get more data. And that's to the point that you pointed out, which is the more I'm talking, the less he can talk.
Yeah.
I'm here for him. I'm trying to get him to talk. So I'm not going to take up space.
I also think like our question asker wrote us about kind of post-incident debriefs. And another thing about this is not the kind of thing you can do in like a group setting, right? Both for time constraints and just for like safety. So, and just getting people to talk more openly. I think it's easier to do when it's just kind of one-on-one. So, one of the things that Clint and I, as part of this group that did some of these things, when we decided to do in-depth incident analyses, like you might have your sort of your standard post-incident debrief. But we would sometimes ask if they could wait just like a little bit longer so we could get some of these interviews. And like in some cases you don't need to interview everybody. You don't need like,
you can't
just getting,
just
getting like 3 of those interviews is really valuable for getting that knowledge elicitation and then infusing that into a more group discussion so that, you don't have to carry forward that information from that interview, like in a this person said this way, but more you want to sort of keep all of that confidential and then sort of extract the information in a way that like is presentable in a group setting. So I feel like that's the other piece is that like this kind of interview technique is not something that you would do as part of like a group thing. It's something you would take the information from in a sort of like individually masked way as you can and sort of bring it to a group setting for discussion or that kind of thing.
There's one thing that I might add, and that is important. Instead of extracting, you might think of it this way: you are synthesizing.
Yeah.
The way we like to say it is that parable of the blind men and the elephant. If you've seen that, there's a Wikipedia page for it. But I won't go into it. It's a great story. But the blind men come back from seeing the elephant, it's as if parable goes as the parable goes, they all, go to the emperor and each one says, oh, well, an elephant. It's this big, flexible hose. No, it's not. What are you talking about? Says the other one. It's a big cylinder, right? It's as if in the parable you ambush them and say, hey, folks, let me talk. And you had a chance to talk to each of them individually prior, and then you bring them and you are putting their stories together in a way. And that does a whole bunch of different things. But anyway, this isn't the incident analysis training coaching, and I don't want to take up all of the time.
Well, I want to point out something else, just being interviewed too, that I notice. I've noticed this before, being interviewed for these. And it's funny, actually, in an hour, I'm going to, one of our good friends, Alex Alzuri, is going to interview me for a different incident. And I think I'll notice this again. Our original question was also about hindsight bias. And one of the things I've noticed when being interviewed, we all have hindsight bias, and we know we're subject to it. We're smart enough to have seen ourselves fall victim to it. In a one-on-one setting, it's quieter. There's less people watching. It's much easier to go backwards into the tunnel and stay there than when you get caught up in the group going, they want to get to the end. They want to get to that solutioning. And even if they're being very disciplined and trying to stay in the tunnel, you do one-on-one with someone, I can just start at the beginning. And you can, and the way you were interviewing is important with that too. But just say, like, what happened? That allows me to set it again back up on the shelf and go, well, I know what the end is like, but at the beginning, this is what I saw. And it helps me to rationalize where I was at then too. So I want to point that out to our listener, that a lot of what happens with hindsight bias and why it just is like this constant force, I think, in these group debriefs, is that we are engineers. We want to help, and we're trying to make sense of the end as much as we are about the beginning. But taking a little, slower pathway allows us to lock in some of our early rationalizations into building that narrative. Yeah.
And if I could add to that and kind of bring back to the very beginning of, of the question, there is, in Behind Human Error, they put it this way, that there's a loose coupling between the outcome of a problem and the performance in handling the problem, right? It's another way of saying good decisions can produce poor results, and bad decisions can produce positive results. The way we like to say it is the thinking through the difference of a difficult case handled well and a straightforward case handled poorly. And once you see that there are two dimensions there, then it's a bit easier, because hindsight bias is about a judgment that's implied typically, but it's usually a judgment because you know the outcome, whereas prior you did not, or other people did not. And so you're right, the judgment, that sort of thing, if I put you in a position as an interviewer where the number one thing for me right now on the face of this earth is, oh my God, I cannot believe what you're telling me. This is the best thing I've ever attended my entire life, because I am literally don't know. It's a story that I don't know anything about. All incident stories are great. And by the way, I shouldn't know anything about it, because interviewees and analysts ought not to be people that responded to them. And then there's no acting. It's real. And you know it. And you can pick that up when I'm talking with you. And so you're more, as time goes by, you're more excited to tell me. And you just keep talking. So, yeah.
Get this. You won't even believe.
Yeah. You can't get rid of hindsight bias, but you can set up conditions where it's not problematic.
Oh, and also where it's not useful, right? I think that's the other thing. Like hindsight bias has a use in a meeting where you're trying to come up with action items. It doesn't have as much of a use in an interview where you're trying to understand what somebody was going through and to have them tell you a story. Those are very different goals.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, John. This has been deeply enlightening. We really appreciate it. And you're basically our third co-host for the podcast at this point. So,
Wow.
yeah. Well, if you want a hindsight bias t-shirt, you can always go to resilienceandsoftware.com/store and get your hindsight bias notebook or hat. If you want a t-shirt, you got to write me because
there's a limited edition.
There's a secret link, a limited edition for those. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please ask us questions at thisisfinepod.com. All right.
Thanks so much.